Welcome to the Blackburn End Podcast. We are back and finally able to talk about the football. We also have a new signing, but as normal, it's the off-the-pitch antics that's dominating the headlines. So let's review the previous week for Rovers. So Rovers returned to action with a 2-1 away friendly win at Stanley, with the super strike partnership of Gay and Ohashi bagging the goals. The number one shirt battle is still up in the air as both Toth and Pear sit out the opener to pre-season. We thought we'd get an answer, and we're going to have to just wait for that one. But it's not so Great Britain as Callum refuses to play against Accrington as he seems set for a move away from Rovers. Ryan Alibiosu, I think his name is. I hope I haven't butchered his name, but he's signed on at right back. Carter is already on the sidelines, but that is just meant to be a precaution. And JRC has ended his 11-year career at Rovers by joining Charlton for an undisclosed fee, rumoured to be around £1 million. And do we have a shirt competition winner? Well, we'll find out. But before we do, Mark, more importantly, what do you think about the pedestrianisation of Norwich City Centre? Because I'll be honest, I'm dead against it. And Craig Atkinson is desperate for our opinions on this.
I think it's absolutely outrageous, Mike. Yes. Disgraceful. And
look at what you're wearing today.
Oh, mate, all right. I'm going on Saturday, although the weather in Lancashire today has actually turned biblical. I'm a bit concerned about it, but I'm buzzing. I couldn't give a hoot who Rovers are signing or not. Sell them all, release them all. I'll be all right this week. Not bothered. Yeah.
And you're wearing one of the most beautiful shirts, and one of the only ones doesn't make an appearance in my collection, because I think it only went out to season ticket holders, didn't they?
Did they? I don't know. I was only a wee boy, Mike. I can't remember those days. You'll have to enlighten me.
So yours is the 125-year anniversary Kappa shirt, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the only Kappa shirt that actually fits me, I think. It says Jack Walker, mine's 0738 is the number on it. Limited edition. Yeah.
Nice. And I went for the polar opposite of yours, because that one is absolutely beautiful. And I've gone for one that is the 2005-2006 Lonsdale black away shirt. This looks like a nun's habit. I hated it, but my mate bought it me for a joke, and I've just kept it.
I like it. It reminds me of Bentley, reminds me of Bellamy, Savage, Cucci. Yeah, I love it. Zurab Kizanishvili. What do you want in life?
I didn't like the way the back was just a completely different colour to the front. It just felt weird.
Are you joking? The socks, black when you face on, grey on the face back in. Oh, tremendous. We're going to wear
front for business, back for party. It was really weird. Wow.
And Stephen Reid nearly took everyone's head off in that kit. What more do you want?
Oh, well, we have said about the Lonsdale kits that I felt like they were awful, but they gave us the best memories.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Some class times then, were they? Good team, good footballers. You think some of the players that we had in those kits, it's, I have fond memories in some ways. They've just not lasted the test of time, have they? A bit like our team.
Well, exactly. So let's move on to our team. We kick off pre-season Accrington Stanley 2-1 win. You went. So who impressed you? Who didn't? What was the try list like? I mean, the one thing I did notice is that kit actually looked a lot better in that summer sun on the pitch than it does on the website. So there's a lot to digest there. So who impressed you? Let's start with that.
To be fair, I was looking at the young players. There was no major surprises. I think nobody told me anything I didn't really know. Obviously, other than Dinev, who I wasn't really sure of. Dineve, whatever we're going to give him a whirl at. My mate, yeah. He don't look like he's going to be pushed around. He's quite combative. Didn't look lightning quick, but maybe he is. Maybe we're just not seeing it. I think Yuki looks like he's bulked up. That was something that looked quite obvious to me. Michalski, confident on the ball. To say it was, I think I might be right in saying it's his first time appearing in the first team, even in a friendly. He's only a young lad. Came way out his box, but not ridiculously, just to get on the ball. Looked absolutely fine. I I've seen people raving about Montgomery, and I'm not going to slate him by any stretch, but I thought he was playing very, very high up. That's clearly what we want to do with the right back, whereas the left back, whoever it was, whenever they changed it, was playing quite inverted and almost with 3 when they were defending. I think if Montgomery's going to play that role, he doesn't look natural as a fullback to me. Now he's playing further up the pitch, so that's fine, but I think he's got to work on his delivery and his final ball, I would say. Carter, Hyam, same old, particularly Carter in terms of getting injured. Ribeiro, pretty standard. Trav and Tronstad, some nice interplay. I thought Dinev, same thing. Some nice touches. So he's obviously got a decent touch. Hedges played too far inside, but that is what it is. I thought Tajon did okay. Thought he looked more ready than he has previously when I saw him in the 21s. Just come back off an injury last season against Fulham. I thought he looked better in terms of being ready, but I don't think he's a number 10 for me. I think the worries were Carter's injury, obviously. I thought that Carbo, your mate Augustus, my mate Augustus now, I think he's absolutely rapid, we know that, but if he's going to play on the left-hand side, for me, your end product has to be spot on, whether you're cutting inside and pinging one at goal or you're putting a pinpoint cross in at that point. You're running, you check back, the defenders are set. So you've got to be even more accurate, if you like. I don't think he's yet got that in his locker. I think he's quite raw. So for me, I'd play him on the right-hand side and be looking at that. You know, you can get away with fizzing a ball across in front of the back 4 a bit more if you're doing that, or checking a ball back. It's a bit more room for error. So I would be doing that while they work on his final product. But yeah, I thought I didn't really learn much, if I'm being honest. It was what it was. It was interesting that neither goalkeeper played. I don't know. You know, something I wanted to talk to you about. Is it likely that they'll be doing different training? I know keepers don't necessarily need the same level of pre-season match practice, I would say. But is it that they could be doing a different load with the keepers? Could they be doing bulking up? Or what would the logic be in that?
No, there's not much logic there. Usually you get your goalkeepers in, they need to start getting sharp. I mean, you know, I played at a much lesser level, and just having 2 or 3 weeks away from the game makes quite a big difference. Your starting position and everything like that. I mean, I had a game on 11-a-side game on Sunday for the first time in ages. My starting position was horrendous. My movement was horrendous. My reading of the game was horrendous. I wasn't happy with my performance, and I'm playing at a much lesser level. So for these guys, you know, just having a few weeks off, that they need to get match sharp with quite a few things. So it is quite surprising. The only thing I thought was they haven't necessarily made a decision, or they have made a decision, but they don't want to kind of make it public yet. So it could be that Pears, for example, is on his way out, or they're just waiting for suitors on him before they have this drama. The other thing I was thinking was they're trying to see who potentially is going to be the number 2. So we need to have a number 2.
Okay.
And so it could be that they know who their number 1 is. They're quite happy to let that ride out for a couple of more weeks before they let that person come in and start taking the reps in goal. And that they're effectively just seeing how the young lads do. So it could be that we have that in pre-season for a little bit, you know, see what we've got. There was another part of me that was thinking that Toth did come back to pre-season a bit later. So they might be thinking, okay, well, he's number 1. He's going to play as the number 1. So let's give him an extra break, and Pears is going to be on his way. But we're trying to think about logic, and logic hasn't necessarily taken a forward role in this club for the last few years. So the way I'm seeing it from a positive sense is we're just trying to see who the number 2 is going to be next year, or we're trying to see what level this lad is, so then we know where to send him on loan. So if you're putting him on this pitch with these adults, how good is he? How is he holding up? And like you said, he had a good game. So if he's like that, well, we now know what kind of level we're going to be aiming at sticking out on loan at. So that was kind of my thoughts with it. But I was hoping we'd have a bit more of a inkling of who was starting, so we could have a proper good conversation about Toth versus Pears. but it's still up in the air. But moving on to other players, Scott Wharton obviously comes back onto the pitch. I've seen a few messages that were quite negative about his performance. I think it's understandable to an extent when you've had this amount of time off, especially the kind of injury he's had. Now, he was someone that before getting injured, I had my reservations about. I saw him as, as a Rovers fan, I want him at the club, but he was never going to be a starter for me when we was playing, the bigger teams that we're playing. He was going to be a depth player. What was your thoughts of his performance coming off the bench?
He looked a long way off it, which is understandable. Is it 15 months since his last game now? So he looked very, very rusty. And he looked a way off the pace. But to be fair to him, I think that's something you'd expect. I think when you look at Scott Wharton in the past, I think you look at some footballers and they are naturally fit, match fit almost. They don't take long to get back in and they can quickly get back up to fitness. Scott Wharton doesn't really fall into that bracket. I've seen him off injuries before, usually quite long ones, to be fair to him, though. And he seems to take a few games to get back into it. I think the most famous example of that was Wayne Rooney, wasn't it? He needed to play game after game after game to get into his groove. David Dunn, very similar. So I think it's going to take him time. It was great that he's played in the first game because I didn't think he would be ready yet in pre-season. I don't think he'd be exposed to games. So I suppose there is a chance he could be ready for the start of the season. I just think it's going to be a very long process for him. And if he's going to find himself on the bench, I actually wonder whether 21 games will do that for him or whether he needs to go and go on loan later in the window. But they've got time to make that decision.
But like you said right at the start, you can't really take much out of these games. It's a quick game just to see where people are at. The club is still figuring things out from a transfer point of view with people going and, the come-ins and goings. The manager's trying to figure things out where a player's at. What you see in training isn't necessarily what you see on the pitch. There is a little bit of a concern that we have so many players that need to get up to speed, whether that's from a fitness point of view after injuries or that's a change in league, change in levels, whatever that is. We have a lot of players that are going to be having to get up to speed. And that's just the nature of having the rebuild that we're now going through. And whether you agree with it or not, we are going through a rebuild. Callum Brittain, he's refused to play. It looks like he's on his way out. There's basically split in the fan base again. We're massive fans of Callum Brittain. It's someone that since he signed, I've been excited about. And I'm not trying to say that, I knew more than most when Brittain came in. It's just I could just see that there was something about him that was going to match the player that we needed. And he kicked on last season way more than I think we all expected. He is going to be a loss. But every player is replaceable at our level. You've just got to hope that we hit on the next signing. Callum Brittain came in when everyone was worried about Niambe leaving, and he's come in and made the position his own. People are now saying that he's so important to the squad that we need to get him. We need to get him signed on. I'm someone that wants to get him signed on. But at the end of the day, if a player doesn't want to be here, I don't want him. Just let them go. As much as it's painful to say, and I think what's a shame with this one, and it's Rovers was a place where players wanted to come to, and players that were here wanted to stay, and it seems at the moment like everyone's trying to get out, and that's the disappointing thing with this thing for me. How disappointed were you in him for refusing to play?
Surprised. I think that's it is very disappointing that he's decided to take that option. I think, yes, it's pre-season, and we talked about this with Sammy Smodics, and I was one of the ones saying I was surprised fans were forgiving Smodics in some senses, but I felt Smodics had an opportunity to go to the Premier League. He was 28, I think, at the time, and it was don't risk injury, and he'd done all that body of work the season before. I think Callum Britain as much as I rate Callum Britain, and I think he's integral to the way we are going to play next season with the way it looks, he's had one good season and one indifferent injury hit season for us. I think he's got a contract with the club that will probably be better than what he was on at Barnsley, you would imagine. But he's going to know what offers are coming in. And I think you can only really blame the club for letting him get to a year between that and the end of his deal. Because the moment you do that, you hand the initiative to players. You've handed the initiative to him, to Tronstad, to Travis. So they're going to be speaking to other clubs. And they shouldn't do, but they will do. Their agents will be the ones doing that. And let's say our top earner is on £20,000 a week. Middlesbrough's top earner will be on double that. So Callum, it's all right, fans saying go and break the bank for him, give him whatever he wants. He's all right, he might not be going on 40 grand a week, but he probably wants to be our top earner or more than our top earner. And if Middlesbrough are saying, well, we'll give you 28, is it purely down to numbers with him? Maybe, maybe not. Is it down to the fact that he thinks they have a better chance of getting in the Premier League, that they're better run, that they've more continuity? Possibly a full mixture of them things. But I think the club have got to take this one on the chin. I think Ishmael spoke really well recently. The club have got themselves into a situation. No point crying about it. The initiative is with the players. Yes, they shouldn't refuse to play, but I actually am happier with the Callum Britain situation than I am with Tronstad and Travis in some bizarre way, because at least we've got clarity now early on. He wants to go, so that's quite straightforward now. Right, he's got a year left. Get what you can for him. And I think they've talked about a £2.5 million bid early on. Right, well, you set your stall out to Middlesbrough. You say, listen, we are stubborn. We will carry on being stubborn. We've got history for this. You pay whatever we want, £3.5 million, or you leave him alone. And you say the same to Callum Britain. Callum, you can go and sit in the reserves now. That's absolutely fine. You've made your bed. You go and lie in it. Go and sit with the 21s. And if no one comes in for you, you are where you are. Let's see if they still want you in a year's time. Whatever. They'll come and pay it if they want him. But I think Tronstad and Travis are the ones that we need to get nailed down. I mean, there's rumours that Travis said that they've not made an offer for him. I think what fans do need to appreciate is it's not quite like Football Manager. What's not happening here is we are going, right, Lewis Travis, you're on 15 grand a week. We want to give you 20 grand a week for 3 years. And he says, no, I want 25 for 4. That's not happening. What's happening is agents talk to the club around, I want to know about how important I'm going to be. What sort of assurances can you give me? Can I be the top earner? How many years will you give me? All those kind of things. But it's not a 15 grand. Well, no, I want 18. No, I want 17 and a half. That's not happening. So there's probably a bit of both sides being creative with the wording of things. So whether there's probably not been a hard and fast piece of paper with a contract to offer on, but they're in talks. I think if he'd said, listen, I'll sign for 20 grand a week and I'm on 18 and I want 3 years, the club, you would imagine it'd be a no-brainer. So something's broken, and I actually think we need to be very, very quick now with those three and say, right, here's your deadline. Britain's give us one now, really. Here's your deadline. It's a hard deadline. You sign a new deal or we will get what we can for you. And if you don't go, we'll work on the basis you're not here for now. And just part them for a bit. And then we need to start focusing now on those players who are out of contract beyond that. And there's a number of them. We've got Hyam, Hedges, and make a decision with them now. And if you don't want Hedges beyond the year, you decide whether you're keeping him for a year and releasing him, or actually we're gonna let him go. Dom Hyam the same. And then they work on the ones that are 2 years. Augustus Cogbo has 2 years left on his deal. If he comes and sets the world alight at the start of the season, which you're presuming the club think he will now do after 6 months. That's why they brought him in for a substantial figure. That was what was quoted. So if he does that and he gets to Christmas, all of a sudden you're 18 months away from the end of your contract. We're in a similar situation with him. All of a sudden, well, I'll just wait till the end of the season to discuss it. There's a year left. The same thing is happening. They've got to fix that. So yes, I am disappointed with Callum Britain for not playing. But actually, I'm kind of happy in some senses that he's come out and made his position clear. No, I want to go. Okay, right, great. Move on then. But this is the fee that it takes to get you. You're not going on the cheap. There's the fee. Tronstad and Travis, what are you two doing? We need to know.
So Yeah, I agree with most of the things being said. The only thing I've thought about recently is this 2 years left on a contract. When do you start these conversations? Now, for some reason, these conversations don't seem to start, or we don't hear about it. But the club needs to protect itself. So you don't know with Cargbo whether he kicks on and sets the world alight. So say he does, and we get to 18 months, that's when we start the conversation. And you're just like, right, okay, you've got 18 months left. Let's start the conversation. Let's get you tied down. And they really push it. Say he doesn't. And we've already started the conversations now, and then those conversations change, and we start talking about some figures, and then we're like, okay, we don't actually think you're worth that. And those conversations change. Then the player gets his back up and then potentially has an absolute lightning last year. And it's all speculation of what can happen. So I do understand the situation the club's in. What is upsetting me at the moment, it's something I alluded to earlier, is Blackburn was a club that players wanted to stay at and they wanted to be at. And for whatever reason, that isn't the case anymore. We're struggling to. We're bringing in players. That's fine. But the caliber of players that we're bringing in is very risky compared to what other clubs are bringing in. And the players that we're trying to tie down seem like the kind of players that, even though we like them and we want them to stay, they're the caliber of players that previously would have jumped at the chance just to sign the same deal again. So your Callum Brittans of the world, he's had a great year, and I've rated him since I saw him play, and I think he's a great player. But the Callum Brittans of the world should be looking at Blackburn and thinking, this is the club that I want to sign a deal at and be at for the next 3-4 years, because I can see that they are pushing on. Travis, I can kind of understand a little bit with Travis. He might be at a point of his career where he's thinking, do you know what, I've given the club a lot and I want to try something different. I get that. But it doesn't have that feeling with him. It has that feeling with him that he wants to stay, but we're not doing enough to keep him. Tronstad, we're just hearing nothing from either camp. But I think that's my frustration with the Callum Brittain one is I just feel like he's the kind of player that I would love to keep on board. Strike while the iron's hot. He's a form player. Let's keep him playing. Let's keep him happy. Let's sign him on, and then hopefully then that shows a bit of intent to other players, and they're like, okay, well, I can see there's something positive happening here. But right now, it seems like if you play really well, you're going to be gone, and I don't like that. That's not building in the direction I want us to build.
Completely agree. I think trying to look at it as neutrally as we can. I hate this fact, but Middlesbrough are a more attractive proposition. They're a better opportunity of getting in there. I know they haven't done that and they've underperformed, I would say, but I think we've probably overperformed based on what funding we've been given and things like that. And I'm not saying that's right, the funding levels. What I'm saying is, just looking at it from a player's perspective, who's going to almost should give you the better chance of getting in the Premier League, you would argue it should be Middlesbrough. I think potentially even a significant number of clubs in the Championship are appearing to try more to get out of the league in the correct way. I think what I'm looking at as well in terms of the club is, once upon a time, we would have looked at this. We're just talking about Craig Bellamy, Santa Cruz, Benny McCarthy. Those players you would look at, right, do you know what, we brought Callum Britain in for £1 million, 1.5. We can sell him for 3.5 million. Right, well, great stuff. We brought in this lad for 500,000. He's going to be ready in 6 months. We'll go and get a decent Premier League loan, because fullbacks are out there from the Premier League. That's probably one position that people don't just get a chance in easily in the Premier League. And there'll be some, the style of football we're looking to play, attacking right back. That sort of player's got to be out there in the 21s looking for exposure. Owen Beck, for example, but a right-footed version. So we can go and do that and probably have somebody of the same level of Callum Britain, potentially even. And then you go, right, we've got another £3 million of that, and we are going to go and get the centre half or the midfielder that we are, do you know what, that player we're going to hang our hat on for the next 3 or 4 years. He's going to be the one that if he hits the ground running. We're talking about him going for 10, 15 million. But we do not do that. I have absolutely no confidence that we will do that. I have no confidence that we'll reinvest any of that in the team. So what worries me
because players see that, don't they? And they know what's happening.
Exactly.
So why would they commit to a club that's doing that?
Because if you're Lewis Travis now and you're sat there and you're looking at Britain going, if you had confidence in the club that they would reinvest even half of that and become a better squad, they're talking about Ethan Pye, aren't they? And the lad from Legia also. If they're happy that they're going to be an upgrade, and potentially those players will then go on to be sold for a huge profit. In Ethan Pye's case, an English centre-half, if he comes and does really, really well like he has in League One, does that in the Championship 2 years, he's going to go for 5-6 million minimum. But actually, we're not doing that. And you can only look at the past history, and the past history tells us that what we'd probably end up with is Montgomery and, I'm not even going to attempt to say his name, but the lad who's just come in and will make do. Or we will go and get a loan, but he might be all right, they might not. And then you're consistently downgrading the squad. You're consistently running out of people to sell without becoming a better squad. I think we've always been used to, as a club, buying players like Santa Cruz, a couple of £1 million. If someone comes in with 15, 16, 17 million for a player like that, he's got to go. We understand that. But then 8 million of that comes back in and signs Craig Bellamy or what. I'm getting the order mixed up, but
that's because we had that attractive. People had an attractive prospect of coming to us because they knew that we wouldn't stand in the way. So we knew we would invest. We knew that we would bring in quality. So if quality left, quality would come in, and we would get value. And I think that's what players are looking at. So, like you say, I mean, it's a perfect analogy. And it was the era of Lonsdale and around that time where, like you said, we had the Bellamys coming in. They'd play their heart out for a year, maybe two, and they'd move on to bigger and better things. And we'd then replace them. So then you're getting your Benny McCarthy's, you're getting your Santa Cruz's. So and players saw that, so they trusted the process. But like you say, that we're now on a much lesser level where we're letting players go that aren't the big names that we're talking about, and they're not going on to big name teams. Like, with all due respect, they're not going on to necessarily Premier League, taking away the Schmoditz and Wharton recently. They're just going to slightly higher up in the Championship, and I think that's really putting players off, because they're like, do you know what? If I do sign, what players am I going to be playing with? So then it's like, how do you attract them? It's going to be from a financial point of view. Well, like we've discussed, we're not offering big wages. So then all these risks just keep adding up and adding up. Where before you know it, like I said earlier, you've now got a squad full of players that for one reason or another are trying to get up to speed, either with changing league, changing country, or just coming back from injury. We go and get this. I'm going to try his name again, Ali Biosu. That's how I'm going to pronounce his name for the season now.
Nice.
Now, has he come in? Was he always going to sign to be challenging for that number one position of right back? And that could have got Callum Brittain's back up and said, well, I'm trying to sign a new deal here. I want to play. And you go and sign this lad that's big, tall, very, very fast, apparently, attacking fullback, the exact position I've been playing. Am I actually going to get as much? I'm in the shop window right now. People are looking at me. They really like me. And if you bring him in and he beats me, then suddenly I'm not going to get these opportunities later. So as that happened, JRC's now left and he's gone to Charlton. So you're thinking, is these side, Callum Brittain's thinking, am I just going to be the backup eventually? So there's a lot of things that could have gone into this. I mean, the question is, do we trust the process? Do we trust this new project? We had the Greg Broughton project that we all bought into. I put a tongue-in-cheek out tweet earlier about, remember how we remembered the project and how much we fell in love with it. We're now in a new project. And it could be that this new lad becomes better than Callum Brittain. And we're looking back at this and we're going, do you know what? We've got a couple of million for Callum Brittain. We got this lad for apparently 500,000, played for Arsenal youth team. So he's come straight in, doesn't need much adjusting. we could be looking back, and it's a very heartless thing to say, but for me, when a player doesn't want to play for the club or when they move on, I can move on just as quick. And I think right now, considering how big a fan I was of him, the way he wants to move and go, I think we just get as much money as we can, we sell him, we move on.
Yeah, and actually what we don't know a lot because we don't get that much communication, and they can't do, I understand that while Callum Britton's here. But what would be interesting was actually if Callum Brittain does move on and he goes for 2.5 million, is maybe the club have known Callum Brittain was going to move on. Maybe his agents told them, I want this level of contract or whatever the thing is, and they've gone, well, we're not going to meet that. So they've brought this lad in beforehand. That would be very smart business to do that, bringing somebody beforehand, whilst people don't know you've got that much money to spend, and it's not burning a hole in your pocket. So maybe, but we don't know that yet because we've not been able to trust this process. Once we get to probably January and we've seen the majority of the business come in, we've seen what that business looks like on the pitch, we can start to judge it, then we can judge the process, and we can have some faith in it or not. As it is,
and I love how you've said that. I love how you've said that there, saying about judging the process, because there are these different times, aren't there? You judge at the end of the first window, you judge at the end of the second window, and you judge at the end of the season, don't you?
So, Augustus Cardboard, I talked many times on here about how Brentford's model, forget who they were signing data-driven, I'm not talking about, they were bringing in people that needed to adjust, and they bring them in at least 6 months beforehand. So Maupay goes out the door, his replacement's in the building. Watkins went out the door, his replacement's already in the building. That's good practice. Augustus Cardboard, maybe he was Dolan's replacement, maybe he was Beck's replacement, whatever he was, has been in the building for 6 months, wasn't expected to hit the ground running in January. So, but now he should. So I'm going to judge Cardboard now. And Dinev, I'll obviously have my opinions on him, but I'm actually going to judge him January, maybe. But the problem I've got with this process right now is there's an awful lot of players that need 6 months bedding in that scenario that I'm talking about there. And you're going to have to expect them to hit the ground running. Or maybe this is a bedding in year. But I'd be all right if the club came out and said that to some extent. If they said, listen, absolutely, we want promotion. But what we're trying to do is build this way of playing. We haven't done that for 12 months, so we've got some catching up time. We're trying to change the way that the team is playing. We're trying to change the profiles of the players, but we can't go and just buy established players. They will take 6 months to settle. So we appreciate we might be a bit erratic this season. Absolutely, we want to get promotion. We want to do X, Y, and Z, but we're doing this for this reason. Give it till January, and you should see the best of some of these players. Give it 12 months. If they turn around now and said, don't get me wrong, I'm not going to go, oh, great, that's, I want to win every game, but they want to win every game. But if they told us what actually they were doing and like, listen, we're a bit handicapped here from 12 months behind. Eustace played a different style. He wanted experienced players. We're playing catch up a bit. We're trying to bring these players in. But to do it, it's going to take us 3 windows. The January just gone, even though I know Eustace was still there, but they brought in Cardboard and the players that they wanted. They have the summer window, and then we have next January. And if they said that to us, so actually, do you know what? We really will, we at least want to finish in the top half this year. We obviously want to push for promotion, but our plan is actually to be ready to go, hit the ground running, and really make a push next season even. I wouldn't be delighted, but I'd half get what they're talking about, and I would judge it differently.
But I think that's because we've got sensible heads on, and a lot of the fan base right now, and I'm not saying that, sorry, I'm not claiming that half the fan base haven't got sensible heads on, but that we've got a very emotional fan base at the moment. Don't get in my DMs having a go at me. Come on, people, you know what I'm saying. But everyone's very emotional. Just message at Mark Hitch, he'll tell you. So the thing is we've got a very emotional fan base at the moment. We don't really know where we're going. See how diplomatic I changed that, mate. I should be a politician anyway. It's very hard for people to get their heads around the process, because the process has changed quite a lot over the last few years. We've seen too many comings and goings, and there seems to be no stability. Like normally you've got something that you can hang your hat on. So, right, we've got the manager, we've got the coaching staff, we've got the back rooms, we've got all the recruitment team, everyone's in place, and we're just building around. And there might be some disappointing departures and there might be some disappointing signings, but we will get there. But because we've had so many changes, I think the fan base right now is very emotional with it. So if they did come out and they did say, look, this is a full building process and we just don't know what we're going to do from for this season, it's about staying up, because if you remember, that was said before, and Waggett got absolute pelters for it, when he said it was all about staying in the league. So I think they're in a very difficult position, and I still stand by the fact that what they're trying to do is get everything stabilised for this pre-season. So the players that are going to leave, they leave. The contracts that get signed, they get signed. The ones that don't, they don't. And the players that come in, and then then we can actually say, right, this is the situation. This is where we're at. So I'm not surprised that they're keeping quiet right now. Obviously, you get information being on the forum, and that you can't necessarily share, but there's obviously things going on that they don't want to make public right now. And I do understand why, from a business point, as a fan, extremely frustrated. But as like you say, putting your sensible head on, you do kind of understand.
Yeah, I mean, you completely understand it. I think the problem that they've got as a club now, and as Adam Owen heading up this and Rudy, is whilst this is their first run at this project, it's not our first rodeo. We've had 15 years of projects of Ronaldinho's going to be coming in, of Steve Keane's in charge, and actually we're going to bring in loan players and young players from Barcelona. Actually, no, we're not. We're going to bring in established players like Danny Murphy and get back into the Premier League. Actually, no, we're not. We're going to bring in young Portuguese lads. Actually, that's a bad idea. What we're going to do now, and we've had the same, different, but the same rubbish thrown at us so we are bored and very, 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 very tired as a fan base of being told, just give it time. And
that's exactly it.
And it takes time. I know it takes time, but actually, from our point of view, we've had 15 years now, and the club are not learning. So whilst the different people are coming in, and I have absolutely no doubt that the majority of them are well-meaning and are very much qualified and adequate people to do that role, Greg Broughton. But we've had history tell us that these projects do not actually ever get to be able to be seen through to fruition for one reason or another. So as a fan base, we're very sceptical. And if we hear wait another year and a half, what we're not hearing is wait a year and a half and this project's going to be absolutely flying. What we hear is, oh, so that's 17 and a half, 16 and a half. My maths is rubbish. 16 and a half years now we've got to wait, is it? Well, what difference is a year and a half, mate, when we've had 15 years in the past? And that's what they're up against. So I know what you're saying, but I just think a little bit of transparency to be fair, I think Valérien Ismaël has come out. I criticised his statements last season because he came out and was talking about next season when we were 5th, 6th in the table. And I think that was completely the wrong message from day one. However, part of that, I'll judge him this season because I think that's only fair. And I actually think his interviews so far have been very honest. He's not shirked questions. He has said things that I quite like. And I had said right back to then, the way he talked about wanting to play football, I'm not going to disagree with fast attacking football, high press, high energy, loads of stuff in the box. That's what we all want to see. I just think that takes a higher degree of quality and a higher degree of either really, really, really smart transfer business and a bit of luck, or you go down the route of John Eustace, where you are bringing in older pros who might cost a bit more in wages. Yeah, you're not going to get the resale, but they're probably, you know what they're going to get. And I think the way we are going this season right now, and I'm not going to spoil it for when we do predictions of things, but I think what you will see from us is a very inconsistent Blackburn Rovers. I could see us battering Bristol City 5-0 at home, the week after Derby, old man us, and frustrate the hell out of us and beat us 1-0. I think that is what we're going to see this season. And I'd be all right with that in isolation if we thought, do you know what, this is building to somewhere, Carbo will be flying in January and this kind of thing. But whilst I'm saying I'd be all right with it, we've got 15 years of evidence to say, yeah, but that'll probably change again in January. You know, the manager will leave and actually Adam Owen will go somewhere else and someone else will come in and go, just give me time. It's not the right time in January. Give me till the summer. Now it'll just take a year to do it. I'm just bringing in another model of recruitment. How many different models of recruitment have we had? And we're hearing that we're coming from behind all the time. Yeah. So it's frustrating as a fan, and I think the club needs to just appreciate, and I think most of them do because they've been there a long time, but just need to appreciate that when they are putting things out, it is going to get some negativity because we are basing it on our prior experience. It doesn't mean you don't communicate, though. I think we have to be, sometimes you have to be open and honest and not liked, but then if they come out and do that and then actually something comes to fruition, they've got an evidence base to say, listen, I told you that's what was going to happen, and it's happening. Because if we look at Sondre Tronstad, for example, Sondre Tronstad, for all his wonderful talents and everything we've talked about how well he played last season, you're right, 12 months ago, the jury was out about Tronstad. So would you have given him a new 3-year deal then on higher wages? Possibly not. Probably not. Callum Brittain couldn't stay fit the season before. So is 6 months then, in January, a long enough evidence base to say, actually, this player is worthy of a 3-year deal now? Again, probably not.
And that's the frustrating thing, isn't it? Because we feel like the club's not protecting itself in case... The trouble is you can't protect yourself too much because you either protect yourself and if it becomes an asset, you've got your options ready to make it longer. But then again, if he's an absolute flop, you don't want it to be that he's on a big contract for too long. So it is an extremely difficult balancing act, obviously running the club, especially when you're doing it with our margins, because you do want to make sure that the club's being run properly. And apparently we're one of the we're now running the club as it should be run. We're not taking too many risks, as frustrating as it is for us, because we want to see some bigger name signings coming in. It is extremely frustrating. So, going back to the Callum Brittains, he's there looking to leave. A player that we should be signing because he's one of our form players. We should be signing him. It shouldn't even be. It should be a formality. I think that's the word I would use. It should be a formality that if a player is playing well and he's at the standard of, championship to top end championship player, there is no reason why we can't sign to a deal. Adam Wharton, I get. He's destined for bigger things. So why would he sign a new deal? We're not going to do it, and luckily we got some money for him. I think some players that didn't have Adam Wharton's love for the club might have just run his contract, gone for free and done it that way. And as much as we would have loved to have got even more money, he was worth more. That all came down to the fact that Adam Wharton signed a deal that, other players might not have signed. Moving on to the conversation we had about bringing players in and so on. It is a rebuild. But it feels like it's a refresh as well. So it looks like there's a lot of players that we're not really bothered about leaving in a way because your Dolans, your Brittons, your Travises. There could be an element that the club actually want these players to go because it's the old regime and they want a new regime. And that's why we're going and getting these young, fast players. So there's an element of the resale, exactly what you said. You bring them in young with not much value and then you create the value and they become an asset that you can sell on. So there is an element of that. JRC, he's left. Apparently we've got about $1 million for him and he's gone to Charlton. He was one that I would have kept as a squad player But if you're being offered £1 million for a squad player that hasn't really set the world alight for you over the last year, you take that money. But I've seen people getting upset that JRC's left. I mean, where are you standing on that one?
I mean, that's where I've looked at Alibiosu. Is that what we're calling him? Alibiosu?
I'm going to say Alibiosu.
Okay. Well, I'll take yours.
I'm probably wrong, but that's what I'm going with.
Oh, right. My mate Ryan, he's come through the door, and reported figures here: 500,000 for him, $1 million for JRC. A young player that we have seen do all right in Scottish football. I know you've pointed out before, Mike, for our Scottish listeners, you could also do a good job in Scottish football. But
we could do a job. Come on.
Well, of course we could. But we've seen Owen Beck have 12 months there, and they've been happy with that and proven. We'd have all been delighted if Owen Beck had been signed for 500,000 and we'd have seen what we saw, and we didn't know him. So if they're willing to take the gamble and they think he's a better profile and fit for the squad, and they've decided JRC isn't, then getting £1 million for JRC and for him for 500,000, that's the kind of stuff I'm all right with. That's absolutely fine. I think, like we've just talked about, 12 months ago, Callum Brittain, Lewis Travis and Sondre Tronstad, for one reason or another, the jury was out. By January, the jury was not out. It was completely on. The only debate was which of them is getting player of the year. And that's when they should have renewed at least two of them. And I think at least two of them would have re-signed. Tronstad, I do think, and I'm not saying I wouldn't play him. I'm not saying I wouldn't keep him. What I'm saying is if you look at the profile player they're trying to bring in and the way they're talking about playing, I do worry about Tronstad's athleticism and his ability to get about the pitch. Yeah, already. And I think if he was perfectly suited to the way they played last year, but it was quite a deep role for him. If they're thinking of changing that, a bit like when you have, I always use the example of Harry Maguire at Man United. Harry Maguire at Leicester, you play him on the edge of the box, he looks a very, very good player, does the same for England. You stick him 10 yards further up the pitch, he looks an absolute donkey. So Tronstad was trying to play higher up under JDT and couldn't do it. I don't think it's just that it took time to adjust. He's then played a very, very niche role alongside Travis doing all the other stuff, complementing each other's strengths and weaknesses. I think there's an element of the pair of them suit each other, but only in the way we were playing. So the club might be making that decision as well. And if they're going to be high earners, I understand that. I'm not saying I agree with it, but I understand it. But you also look at John Buckley, who was absolutely flying. And I think if you'd have put a poll out for the fans, should we renew John Buckley's contract when he did? I reckon 90-95% of fans would have said, yeah. They gave him a 4-year deal, I think it was. Since that point, he has dropped off the cliff. And now the resale value, we were talking about 10 million. I know it was paper talk, but the rumours at that stage were like 10 million when Mowbray had him playing in the number 10 role and that kind of... I think you'd be looking to get £1 million for him. So you do have to be very careful. And when you're talking about Tronstad, Travis and Brittain, and I'm not trying to stick up for the club here, I'm just trying to give a case for a balanced argument. And if they're all wanting to be the top earners, there's not much resale at the end of the next big contract they get. Maybe that's what the club are doing. I just appreciate them afterwards. I don't think they can do it now. Just being open and honest about that. If that's their decision, back your decision. Be open and honest about it and say, you know what? This was our rationale. Agree with it or don't agree with it. That's what we were doing. And fine. You know, we can then judge it in 12 months' time and say, that was a horrific decision. Or that was actually, all right, fair enough. I get what you've done.
And it's definitely a time will tell situation because you just don't know. I mean, you know, we've seen players leave us and do nothing time and time and again. And you go back and you think, you know what, brilliant. And we've had players that have, you know, left and we wish we'd signed them and kept them. I mean, that's a little bit more rare. I mean, we've got more transfer rumours right now with is it Steve Capaldi from Legia Warsaw? He's the one that you said earlier is meant to be around £4 million signing, left-footed centre back. You know, that one seems a little bit unrealistic. But then you've got Musa Baradji. I'm going to butcher his name, Baradji. I'm going to go with Baradji. Apparently, he looked really excited and proper YouTube sensation. Seeing his videos, seeing him moving through the midfield into that final third and getting goals, getting assists. Looks a very exciting player, and then suddenly that's been delayed. Hopefully, it will carry on, but apparently that's due to a medical. What rumours are you hearing with that one?
Exactly that, and I think I trust the club on that. I think, the last thing you want is a player coming in and breaking down. I know Tavares has done, but that's unlucky. That's a rolled ankle. I think, just so people know, when people, I think, presume sometimes medicals, right, go and run on a treadmill, test your heart, he's fine or he's not. To be fair, what generally happens in football now is the clubs have scans, doctors' reports, all sorts of stuff, information that they store about the player. If I approach your club and you say, yep, do you know what, you can approach the player, my club doctor sends that information over to you. You do final tests, you do an updated heart scan, you do all the CO2 max tests, the basics kind of mobility, actually. Are we happy with it? The doctor then gives a bit of a rag rating and says risk. So if we're signing Danny Bart at 36, do you know what? He's got a dodgy knee, but he's had it for 10 years. Actually, he's played 30 games a season. He's only on a year contract and he's on $5,000 a week. Rag rating, you're probably good to go. If you're signing a player a significant investment, 3-year deal, and he's got a dodgy knee and it's only just flagged up, actually all of a sudden you're going to go, do you know what? The doctor doesn't veto a deal. He just goes, this is high risk. And maybe they weren't expecting it to be high risk. Maybe a scan's come through that they've not seen before. So I'm all right with that. I actually think that's doing due diligence. And I'd rather they did that than signed a player that they never played. We've had Vince Grella numerous times, haven't we?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, as exciting as he looks, you don't want the club to put itself on the chopping block for a player that, like you say, is going to play only a handful of games. I mean, I'm not seeing too many more rumours that seem to have any substance to it. He was the one that had the most substance. In fact, I've just seen Rovers Twitter as we're recording now, and it's 9:15, and I thought a teaser had just come through, but it looks like a video of, is it Corporation Park? And they're teasing, but it looks like they could be teasing it for the kit rather than a player. But I thought we was going to have some live reaction to a player then.
Well, yeah, I think the new kit might be out later this week.
Yeah, it's meant to be, isn't it?
Yeah.
And whilst we're at that, we have had a competition, haven't we, Mark?
We have
winning the home shirt from us, and we do have a winner. We trawled through, we pulled a name out of a hat, and we found one. Do you want to announce who it is, Mark, or shall I?
No, Mike, you do it.
Okay. So the winner is Mark Atherton at Mark Atherton 09 on X. Did everything asked, and we know that he's someone that has watched us live. He has commented. Proper Rovers fan. So Mark, congratulations, you have won that shirt. So if you can just drop us a DM into our X, we'll start the conversation on getting that shirt across to you. But congratulations, thank you everyone for getting involved. But your job hasn't stopped. We still need everyone to share the podcast, keep tagging people. If you think that anyone may want to listen to us rambling on about Rovers, or to take the piss out of us, that's absolutely fine. Listeners are listeners. So you just get them tagging, get sharing, and make sure you come and subscribe on YouTube, because that's the one that we really want people to do, because it does help the algorithm. It helps us grow. And we've seen some players being interviewed recently for local media, and we would love to get those players on here. But they're only going to come on if we've got the subscribers, aren't they? Because they want to push themselves as well. So make sure you do all that good stuff. But thank you, everyone that has done that. So moving back on to the contract situation, California Rover has actually asked a question about contracts. who's actually in charge of these contracts now, Mark? So at the club, a player's coming to his, to 18 months, say, left on his deal. Who's now in charge of that at the club to look at this and maybe start asking questions of the manager, of the coaching staff, or, starting conversations with agents? Who's that name right now?
So I believe the way it works, I mean, we'll insert Steve Waggett still in there as a CEO. We'll insert a CEO. So I believe the way it works is in terms of budgets, that operationally and then football side, the CEO and the COO, Steve Waggett, formerly Sahil, take that to the owners and present to them, this is our business plan for the next year. In terms of football philosophy, if you like, a way of playing, looking at the academy, are the players playing a similar way? They're going to be bringing, we want Christian Montgomery to be playing in the first team, but we actually think he should be doing this, X, Y, and Z. That's Adam Owen. So he has a lot to do with the manager. He doesn't necessarily turn around to Valerian Ismail and say, Valerian, I want you to play 3-4-3. But what he does say is, we want this football philosophy. We want players playing progressively. We are willing to let you, in terms of JDT in the past, I want you to play Adam Wharton. Not play Adam Wharton, I wouldn't say it specifically, but I want you to allow and feel the confidence to play players who might make an error, but have got the ability to have that opportunity and grow. Let them grow. We want you to do that. And then in terms of contracts and actually handling that side of it, mainly Rudy and the CEO. So right now, Rudy's probably flying quite solo. I think in terms of figures, Sahil would have to sign that off with the owners. But yeah, it'd be mainly Rudy.
And obviously, things aren't quite going to plan at the moment with contracts, as we know. We don't know where it's all falling over, but obviously we are waiting for a new CEO. Adverts went out, but we're not hearing anything about who's coming in or any potential interviews or anything like that. But we have seen another job update go out, and is it head of technical? It was, I can't remember, but it was to do with overseeing the medical side as well and the physical side of the club. And that really falls into my strength and conditioning argument that I keep having. Hopefully it's someone that's going to come and sort out that department, because we've now got Carter that's on the sideline. We've got new signings on the sidelines. It just looks like from top to bottom they're trying to just get a new structure in place.
Yeah, so it's head of performance is the actual title. It's a fair title, isn't it? And responsible for athletic performance department, physical, nutrition, psychological across first team and academy. So head of technical development is who you report to. That's Adam Owens. So this is obviously, basically tasked with, this is what we want the players to be able to do. You maximise that for us. Interesting. Yeah. I think
it is interesting. Carry on.
Just going to say, looking at Hayden Carter at weekend, there's an element of unfortunate things there. There's an element of players can be susceptible to that, certain players. There's an element of mismanagement, because is he ready to play? Is he not? Is he at the right fitness? But I think in terms of data management, Prozone was around under Big Sam and Mark Hughes, and obviously it's more detailed now, but most sports scientists will pretty much have a decent idea of when you can push it and when you can't. The managers will listen to them. So I don't really know what's going fully wrong, because the data will be the data. They'll go to university, they'll study, and they'll know if your heart rate is in this area, it's in the red zone, that increases your risk. I think it comes down to maybe their advice in terms of actually whether this player can recover or not. But I go right back to Craig Bellamy. Years and years ago, Craig Bellamy was an absolute nightmare for getting injured. Mark Hughes and his strength and conditioning team and his coaches gave him a personalised individual programme, just like they do in rugby. So the winger in rugby gets a very different programme to the big brute in the middle of the park that's bashing people. And I just wonder whether we need to start tailoring it a bit more, but we don't know the ins and outs of that. But I'm sure the one person who will do is the new head of performance when he arrives. So that's the person we can take a keen interest in.
I hope so. I mean, we're not idiots as much as I come across as one now and again. We understand injuries happen in football. We get it. Like every club goes through injury crisis. It just comes to me. It just comes down to the regularity of it, and that comes down to lack of depth as well and quality of depth. Because if you're a manager, you know, and you're wanting your players, you know, you're wanting results. You're under pressure, and you look at your bench and you haven't got the players you feel like you need to win. So you are flogging, you know, the willing horse of your better players. I do get it, but there is an element of strength and conditioning as well. It's going to be an interesting season. I really think we've got an interesting season. Our predictions are going to be coming up in the next couple of weeks. There's no point in us recklessly speculating now where we're going to be, because the club will look dramatically different from what it does today to what it does in 2-3 weeks' time. What's a question that came in from John Lee, Brisbane Rover, was about, are we getting closer to the model of how to get promoted? Something that you did for us last season, Mark, which was really interesting. I think it's a question that we need to really discuss in 2-3 weeks' time. Right now, I don't know what model we're going to, but it doesn't seem like a very good one. But things are changing, and we don't know who's going to come through the door. We don't know what money's going to be spent. So I appreciate the question, John. It's definitely one that we're going to review, and I'll be leaning heavily on Mark to look back at what to review what he spoke about back in the day last season, and then we'll try and review where we're at. One tweet we did put out was, are people worried right now? Are you worried? And I was so shocked about how close it was, but 50.1% of fans that voted said that they still have faith. I have faith. Mark, I know you have faith, but how much faith have you got?
I am worried about the lack of clarity over the three main players. I'm worried that we've not got as many people through the door. I appreciate business is slow everywhere, but when we stated that it's really important that people are in through the door in time for pre-season, and we've talked about Ismail's football being really demanding of them and the load that they need to be able to do, and I think that's part of the reason why we've not signed or aren't signing Baraji at the minute, because we've talked about players need to be robust for us. I am worried that we've not got enough depth right now and quality, because I do think we will see this season. John Eustace was almost a Sean Dyche in the sense of, if you remember Sean Dyche down the road, you could almost name his 11 every week in the Championship, which is unheard of. Eustace pretty much wanted to do the same thing. That's not going to happen this season. We will be going back to Callum Brittain playing one week, Joe Rankin Costello playing the other under JDT. And that's regardless of their performance. That sort of model will be coming to the fore, and I don't think we've got the quality for that right now. And I am more, I think worried's the wrong word. I am more concerned that we're taking a lot of gambles, or we appear to be. But that's me in my head looking at Travis, Tronstad and Britain going out the door, if I'm being honest, and Dolan. For whatever we think of those four players, they were a big chunk of our performances last season in terms of numbers and quality. And there's a large percentage of them gone out the door. Same with Danny Bart, Andy Vyman. Important players last season gone. All replaceable in their own way. But I think we're replacing them with unknowns. And until we know what's going to happen, they are exactly that.
Yeah, I'm apprehensive to say that I have full faith and I'm not worried at all, because you don't know what the next few weeks are going to bring.
No.
I like to believe that there is a plan, and we've spoken about how they have whiteboards with names on, and if we go for this player, and he's available, great. If not, it's the next player. I like you said earlier, I like what Ismail's been saying. I think there's been some positivity there. He seems like he's being positive about things. So right now I have faith, because I always have faith in Rovers, because they're my club. I love them, and we've always pulled rabbits out of hats when we've needed to. There's been times where we haven't, and we've shot in the foot, and we've gone down to League One. We left the Premier League a couple of times, and we got relegated into League One. And obviously, some of the older fans will remember a period that was way worse than what we've experienced. I just it's not blind faith, but I can just see that there's going to be something. I've got a feeling. I've got a feeling that there's something that's going to work, and all this athleticism that we're going to bring through the door, I think, is really going to help us. And there's been we said about the lack of athleticism, and one thing I actually said last year, probably not last year, the year before, that there wasn't any Rovers player that if I saw him down a dark alley, I'd be scared of. I wanted to see big, strong, fast players coming in, ones that if I saw them, I was scared. I didn't want to play them. And I just get a feeling that now we're getting some faster players, because players don't like playing speed. The players that we're looking at, the players that we're signing, they look like they're fast. They look like they're strong. And the coaching side, I mean, you can't teach speed. We've already spoken about that. The coaching side of things, I just want to see some stability. And I have a feeling. I just have a feeling that things could be positive this year. But people, put your comments down below. How positive are you with this season right now? There's going to be a lot of changes, and we need to take that into account. There will be a lot of changes. Players will come through the door. Players will leave. But where's your faith at? So put your comments down below on that. But I did put another tweet out, Mark. So before we go, before I get onto this and we finish, is there anything else you want to talk about today? Or do you think we've covered most of the stories?
Yeah, I think we've pretty much covered it. I think just in terms of the faith thing, what I would say is cast your minds back to this time 12 months ago. We'd only just stayed up. We weren't sure about Eustace. We are basing all of our opinions this season really on the fact that Eustace was, by March, we were giving him a 5-year deal if he'd have let us. But 12 months ago, we were going into a season not having a clue what to expect. We were talking about a really good season could see us 10th, 8th maybe, but not challenging for the playoffs. A poor season will be 14th. We ended up 7th. And we're going into this season with more certainty in some positions. It's just that we're worried about the long term of that. We last season, Travis, absolute unknown. Britain wasn't playing well enough. Bart and Vyman, will they even play? Hashi and Gay up front, are they going to be better than what we had? Are they not? There was loads and loads of unknowns. I think we've improved in the keeper department. And I think, I know what you're saying. I have something inside me that thinks I like where this is going in some senses. I think there's a lot of work to do, though. There's a lot of unknowns. I think it'll be very up and down. But going into last season, before that Derby game, I don't think any fan, hand on heart, would have said, I'm certain we are going to have a really good season. And it'll be very interesting if we look back at that preview of the season and then do the same before the first game of this season, where we're at. I think that Derby game set the tone for the season. We may well be in a similar position with those first 4 games. Yeah.
Exactly. And we are fans. We're, like we said, we're not pundits, we're not journalists, we're not football experts in any way. We're just giving opinions on what we see. And sometimes we're low, sometimes we're high. We try not to let the lows get too low and the highs get too high, except when we do boldly claim that this is our year and we're obviously going to get promoted as champions. But other than that, yeah, I mean, it's definitely a season of another rebuild. It's more uncertainty. The only thing that's certain about Rovers is that you will be uncertain about something. And we have that once again. And we, you can't say that you're a Rovers fan unless you get upset about things and get stressed about things, and that's what we're trying to unpick. But before we do go, Mark, I did put a tweet out, and I'm going to let you have a little think. And it was about what player has 100% hype but 10% ability. So the names that have been mentioned so far: David Goodwillie, Hoylett, which I found Hoylett a bit of a weird one, Robbie Fowler, Chris Brown, Keith Andrews, Kevin Davis, Kabadiawara. Oh, someone's mentioned Todd Cantwell, Carlos Villanueva, Ruben Rashina, Formica, Kalinic, Dolan, Leo Volstead, Leon Best, Harry Chapman, Dino Baggio, Danny Murphy, Massimo Richters, Emmanuel Dennis, Fode Koita, Vince Grella, Barry Ferguson, Jason Lowe. So who do you think had all this hype but no ability?
The one that came immediately to my mind was, and I think you were probably meaning more younger players, I don't know, but actually it was Danny Murphy.
General.
So we came down to the championship and we said, right, let's go and buy some really experienced Premier League players that'll have that bit of quality, the bit of know-how, the experience to control a game, calm things down, get us over the line. We signed Danny Murphy, and I thought, obviously far lesser version, but this is going to be like having, when we had two guys in the Premier League, this is going to be like Danny Murphy in the Championship. He's going to have that bit of quality, set pieces, he's going to run the show, he'll slow the game down when it needs to be. He's a captain, he's done X, Y, and Z. And he came and looked like he was running in treacle. I have a little bit of sympathy for him, a tiny bit in that what we did do, though, was not play to his strengths. We said to him, right, you go and play in a two-man midfield and get up and down. And he played against... But what made it worse for me was we signed two of them. We signed him and a Tuhu because they played together, and we went, just do that in the Championship. You've done it in the Premier League, do it in the Championship, and it'll be even easier for you. We didn't consider that sometimes it's slightly more physical in the Championship, but yeah, Danny Murphy for me, I thought he's going to come in and look a cut above, and he looked absolutely dog mess.
I think that's going to be a popular choice, that one. I think a couple for me. Kevin Davis, I think when he signed, there was a lot around him. He got a couple of goals, and it was a lot of money at the time, and he just didn't deliver for what we needed for whatever reason, whether it was too much pressure on him, we didn't play to his strengths. I think another one to mention is Chicho Grabby, and I will stand by that. I know I was a big fan. I've got his shirt. It's a signed shirt as well. But the reason is we signed an attacking midfield. We tried to sign a striker, but we got an attacking midfielder, in my opinion. So we tried to buy this goal scorer, and he was never a goal scorer. He was someone that would buzz around and potentially play in that number 10 role. So I will stand by. He wasn't a bad player. We just didn't buy the player that we thought we was getting, and we just didn't adapt. But David Goodwillie, I mean, he was coming. Didn't they say he was the Scottish Wayne Rooney? And we was all getting excited.
There was a spell, weren't there, where, I mean, that Plant Pot who was manager was, didn't we sign the next Dennis Irwin, the next Chris Smalling, the next Wayne Rooney? It was just his favourite thing to do. Do you know the other one I would throw in, though, is Lorenzo Amoruso. He came down from Scotland and everyone was talking about how good a defender he was, and he scored these free kicks. His free kicks were absolutely awful. He scored one good header from the near post. He spent more time doing his hair, and he was rubbish. I mean, he looked amazing, but he was rubbish. And that shows how bad Scottish football was. No,
Yeah,
that shows how
exactly.
bad Scottish football was even then. Yeah, and to be fair, Barry Ferguson was a shout. He came down, he's like Patrick Vieira, this lad. He's Scottish football. He's the captain of Scotland, captain of Rangers. Do you know what? He's going to run English football. I mean, he had a better season, ironically, the season he ended up leaving again and going by there. But he came down and he looked. Was he even an upgrade on Gary Flitcroft? I don't think he was.
Probably not. And one player that probably doesn't really fit into this conversation, but came into my head was Sebastian Perez. I felt like he could have had a much better career with us. I thought he was a cracking player.
Yeah,
and it's absolutely nothing to do with this conversation. This is me and you, pub talk again. I thought he could have had a cracking career. What happened with his career?
Well, he got sent off from Graham Lassau, didn't he? He would, if you remember that time when he got headbutted and got sent off for being headbutted. I think that's the famous Roy Hodgson, it's a disgrace when he kicked the bucket. And Soccer AM used to do that for years. But I think he got homesick, didn't he? And then just went back and we ended up using Patrick Valerie instead. Yeah. But no, I agree. He looked a cracking footballer, didn't he? He would.
I think he could have had a major career.
Yeah,
he was a cracking player.
Yeah.
But again, people put your comments down below. Who do you think had so much hype but no ability? Anything that you want us to talk about next week, stick in the comments down below. Anything that we've spoken about this week that you've got an opinion on, start the conversation. We love it when people have the conversations below. We love it when you argue as well. It's brilliant to watch. We get the popcorn out and we have a little read of it. But Mark, we've managed to actually have topics to discuss, some positive, some negative. But we've done an hour and 15 of actually not having to keep poking to try and find content. It's been a good week.
It's been a cracking week. I mean, do we need to address the elephant in the room? So I love the fact you put out unforeseen circumstances. I'm going to own up. I did have a date, and that's why I chose ahead of doing the pod. It was a date with Sahil and Adam Owen and Yasser and the fans forum. Hopefully the minutes will be out next week. So it wasn't that unforeseen, but yeah, it was nothing untoward. Don't worry, people. We are not negotiating our move to the Rams podcast.
Now, Derby have put in a bid, but we're refusing. We are standing fast. We are staying at Blackburn. We are signing new deals.
Speak for yourself. They have offered me a new laptop and a comfier seat. So I am tempted.
Well, all they need to do is offer you better broadband and we will be sorted.
Well, apparently the broadband in Derby is tremendous, yeah. So we're aware.
But no, that's great. Well, cheers, Mark, for joining me this week. It's been a good conversation.
It has. I've enjoyed it, pal. Yeah.
Good man. And thanks to everyone listening. Like we said, do all the good stuff. Keep liking, sharing, subscribing, commenting, following on all the socials. We enjoy it, and hopefully you do too. Mark's currently breaking his podcast studio. He's just had it done, and now he's breaking it.
Do you know what? I've had a shock of that. I meant to say at the weekend at Stanley, Mike, you'd have loved it. I was in my element. I had loads of people coming over and saying, "Oh, I love the podcast. It was great." I had Duncan, who gets involved a lot of time in the conversation from down south. He came up, had a lovely conversation with him. Talked to Jolly Ollie, who's extremely famous. He is our TikTok representative as Rovers. He's massive on there. Talked to him, Ollie Collins, for a while. He's a good lad. Although he did laugh his head off at one point because someone said, "Can I have a picture with him?" and asked me to take the photo, and he was like, "They obviously don't want one with you." I did point out to him that it's because I'm good looking, he's not, and obviously they wanted to look better than they would with me. So, but yeah, no, it was. Do you know, it was a lovely atmosphere. I do like Accrington Stanley away. You go in Coley's bar; it's a lovely atmosphere. The kids were there, but do you know what I did spot, Mike? A few dingles knocking around, like
Weirdo.
Openly. Shorts, even a Burnley shirt knocking around. That's brave. That is, well,
to be fair, there is a lot of blue and white on that shirt now. So,
oh, isn't there just? Yes.
No, I'll definitely try and get to some games this year, more games this year. My UEFA badge should be signed off at the end of this weekend, which means I can rein in some of my coaching, which is good. Hopefully, I mean, Yeah, I'll let you know on that one. But yeah, we will come to more games, and if we do, make sure you come up and say hello. It's great, but yeah, like we said, we enjoy doing it. Just help us grow. But until next week, have a great one. Enjoy your week as a Rose fan, and hopefully next week it's even more positive stuff. But have a nice week.